When we tell a story, it's really important to be very clear because the person that we're telling the story to might not have read it themselves. So we need to remember 5 important points. Who, once what, but, then, so. Who means who is the main character we're reading about. Wants what means what are they trying to do in the story. But means what's the problem? What's getting in their way so that they can't do what they're trying to do? Then means how do they try to solve it? And so means how does it all turn out at the end of the story? Sheila Ray the Brave by Kevin Henkes. Sheila Ray wasn't afraid of anything. She wasn't afraid of the dark. She wasn't afraid of thunder and lightning. And she wasn't afraid of the big black dog at the end of the block. At dinner, Sheila Ray made believe that the cherries in her fruit cocktail were the eyes of dead bears, and she ate 5 of them. At school, Sheila Ray giggled when the principal walked by. And when her classmate Wendell stole her jump rope during recess, Sheila Ray tied him up until the bell rang. "I am very brave," Sheila Ray said, patting herself on the back. Sheila Ray stepped on every crack in the sidewalk without fear. When her sister Louise said there was a monster in the closet, Sheila Ray attacked it, and she rode her bicycle with her eyes closed. "Yay, yay, Sheila Ray," her friends yelled, clapping their hands. One day, Sheila Ray decided to walk home from school a new way. Louise was afraid to. "You're too brave for me," Louise said. "You're always such a scaredy cat," Sheila Ray called. "Am not," whispered Louise. Sheila Ray started off, skipping. "I am brave," she said. "I am fearless." She stepped on every crack. She walked backwards with her eyes closed. She growled at stray dogs and bared her teeth at stray cats. And she pretended that the trees were evil creatures. She climbed up them and broke their fingers off. Snap, snap, snap. Sheila Ray walked and walked. She turned corners. She crossed streets. It suddenly occurred to Sheila Ray that nothing looked familiar. Sheila Ray heard frightening noises that sounded worse than thunder. She thought horrible thoughts. They were worse than anything she had ever imagined. "I am brave," Sheila Ray tried to convince herself. "I am fearless." The sounds became more frightening. The thoughts became more horrible. Sheila Ray sat down on a rock and cried. "Help!" she sniffed. She thought of her mother and her father and Louise. "Mother, father, Louise!" she cried. "Here I am," a voice said. "Louise!" Sheila Ray hugged her sister. "We're lost," Sheila Ray said. "No, we're not," said Louise. "I know the way home. Follow me." Louise stepped on every crack. She walked backwards with her eyes closed. She growled at stray dogs and bared her teeth at stray cats. And she pretended that the trees were evil creatures. She jumped up and broke their fingers off. Snap, snap, snap. Sheila Ray walked quietly behind her. They walked and walked. They crossed streets. They turned corners. Soon, their house could be seen between the trees. Sheila Ray grabbed Louise and dashed up the street. When they reached their own yard and the gate was closed behind them, Sheila Ray said, "Louise, you are brave. You are fearless." "We both are," said Louise, and they walked backwards into the house with their eyes closed. Well, let's do the retell. Who? Sheila Ray. She's the main character. Wants what? She wants to show everybody how brave she is. But what's the problem? She goes off by herself, and then she gets lost, and she gets really, really scared. Then, how does she try to solve it? Well, she starts to cry, but what she doesn't know is that her little sister Louise, who's afraid of lots of things, was hiding behind a rock, and she helps Sheila Ray get home. So, how does it turn out? Sheila Ray and Louise go home, and it turns out that Louise is just as brave as Sheila is. This way, we remember all the different parts of the story, and someone who hasn't read the story really understands what it's about and may even want to read it themselves. Retelling works for just about every story there is. Every story has a main character, and they usually have something that they're trying to do, but then something gets in the way and keeps them from doing it, and they have to think about a way to get around the problem. And then the reader looks to see how it all turns out. So when you're reading another book, be thinking about that. Who, once what, but then so.